Hello and welcome to Deconstructed, the show where we take an old Watch Mojo top 10 and break it down entry by entry to see why things placed where they did. Today's list is kind of a tough one, pun intended, because it's the top 10 hardest multiplayer games to learn. Let's take a look at the ranking. Okay, well, certainly lots to talk about there. I'm sure we're all going to agree with that ranking. Let's meet our panel, who consists of, Andrew, who is not important, but who is important is Stephanie Harvey, who is with us today.
Hi.
Stephanie, tell us what you do.
I'm a professional gamer, right? That's pretty vague.
Professional gamer, yes.
So I've been playing Counter-Strike for the past, 15 years, professionally. So play on teams, travel the world, compete.
What are you? Who are you playing for these days?
So right now I'm on a undisclosed project.
Okay.
Yeah, we're working with orgs to sign. So hopefully.
So you can't quite tell us.
Hopefully soon.
Okay, very good. But you've played. You don't just play Counter-Strike though, right?
No.
Oh, of course.
I pretty much play everything. I used to be a game designer at Ubisoft Montreal.
Right.
So when I was doing that, I played everything on the market, especially since I was working on the Far Cry series. So I played all the shooters, and from console to PC, like I really tried to understand both. But right now, because of streaming and because of the competition, I focus on Counter-Strike a lot. But I do play the trends, so the PUBGs of this world and the Fortnites and Overwatch, I've tried it all.
Well, I promise we're going to hit a few of those topics on this countdown. You guys ready to discuss it?
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. Okay, so right off the bat, a little context for this list. I think we wrote it a long time ago and then put it on the shelf and then had to take it off the shelf to publish it just after New Year's. And we made a quick adjustment to put a recent game on the list. And that game is at number 10. Yeah. Which is why there's a couple of... We normally don't strongly disagree with the ranking here, but today I think there might be a lot more friction. Anyway, all to say, number 10, PUBG. Maybe you've heard of it lately.
Maybe.
Why would you guys consider this to be a hard game to learn?
I think it's a really easy game to understand, but to actually apply and win games is very, very difficult. It's not like a team A and team B and you gotta win. Like if you're on a good team, you can have people that carries you and whatnot. In PUBG, it's pretty much all by yourself.
You're all on your, even if you are working with a good team, if you're useless, you're useless.
Even if you're with a good team, if you're dragging your team down, it's gonna show in the end. So if there's 160 people in a server and only one person lasts at the end, the odds for you to win are pretty difficult.
Pretty low. Yeah. I think one of the problems that makes this game kind of tough to learn, especially considered even next to something like Fortnite, is that there's a lot of downtime between the action, and when the action starts, it's over in a second. So you might have 20 minutes of looting and running around, and then it's like, poof, and you're shot in the back of the head, and then it's over. What did you learn from that?
But the looting and the running around also takes skill, just to be able to open and close a door and hop in a car
because
and
the
just
game
pick
is so
stuff
janky.
Up quickly because that aspect of the game is also kind of janky. So even that has a little bit of a learning curve.
Yeah, and that's why pretty much the easy way to learn PUBG is to not worry about the looting for the first I don't know how many hours and just go straight into the action, go where people are. Grab a gun and shoot, and then try to learn that over and over.
That is a really good tip for people who are trying to learn it, I think, is don't stop being scared of death and go to the hottest landing zone and then just die again and again and again. And it'll A, take the sting out of death, and B, kind of...
Well, there's that fear.
And and it just gets you used to shooting because the shooting is different from other shooters. It
is, but for me, I have more difficulty playing Fortnite. Because of all the construction, the walls and stuff, I'm still really old school regarding that, where I'm just I see an enemy, I want to go behind a tree. The reflexes for me to build some crazy structure.
Yeah, people just kind of spit these towers out.
Yeah.
So let's break right before we move to the next entry, because we can't talk about PUBG for the whole time. Would either of you swap this one for Fortnite? Would you make it a tie with Fortnite?
I think there's for and against. I would probably make it a tie. I would put battle royale games as a category, I think.
But we have to avoid, that's kind of tricky to avoid doing that.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know, just because I think the action is so spread out in PUBG, I still think it just inches out Fortnite. but maybe we
But
should.
then if you think that way, then is H1Z1 harder than PUBG?
I don't know. We don't play that.
You don't play that? I think H1Z1 is the hardest of all. Like they go from H1Z1s to Fortnite as in learning curve, I think. Because you get no second chance in H1Z1. There's a lot of lags, a lot of bugs. So it's pretty much like.
So it's a lot of the same learning curve that Andrew talked about. It's like you're beating the game itself before you're actually learning.
That's how I feel when I play H1 compared to PUBG. Like, I really think that PUBG is like an evolved version of H1. And regarding Fortnite, it's more like League and Dota, you know.
Okay, fair enough. All right, like I said, we could talk all day about this new emerging genre that everyone is so happy has taken over the world, or we can move on. So let's keep it going. Okay, so entry number 9, which we have up on screen right now, is World of Warships. Now, when doing research for today's discussion, I looked up a couple of things, and there are tons of forum posts like, is this game too hard? Is it too hard? Like, a lot of people are concerned. Like, even games that people acknowledge are hard, which we'll get to later, like don't have as many posts about the difficulty of the game. I have a theory about that, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, either of you.
Well, this is probably the game that I know the least out of the list, just because it's not a genre that really attracts me.
No, you know what? I'm actually almost surprised this game is as popular as it is. But I think it sort of rode off the popularity of World of Tanks. And that's basically my theory as to why people have a lot of friction with it, is because they're coming off of World of Tanks, and there's just a lot more factors to move in here. You have like more gun turrets, there's an elevation, there's like a vertical angle that you have to factor in, a lot of stuff. And kind of like PUBG, I think it's a difficult game to learn because it's slow. So
that's why I don't like these.
That's why you don't like
so slow.
Yeah, like, you know, Counter-Strike is difficult, but Counter-Strike is still fast. This game, it's so slow that by the time you end up dead, you're not quite sure what you did wrong, what the enemy did wrong, if they bought more stuff than you maybe, although I don't think it's completely pay to win. I just think it's one of those things where because the amount of time you invest is not proportional to the amount of time you spend like learning, I think that creates a pretty big barrier of entry.
But it's a bit faster than World of Tanks, and I think
You
that's
think it's
where
faster than World of
popularity
Tanks?
came up. Yeah, well, you're in the action a lot faster.
Okay, fair enough.
But knowing sort of what to do when you're in the action, because it's easy to just see an enemy ship and start shooting at it. Well, but then adjusting for elevation and everything. But it's the way you position your ship is so much more important, because in World of Tanks, you're a tank, so it's much easier to sort of
slide
move around,
behind a wall or something.
They simulate like being on an open ocean, so you can't just stop your ship, back up, turn on a dime.
Right.
So you really have to be thinking 3-4 steps ahead, and I think that's what's a big draw for the game, and that to me is why this is on the list instead of World of Tanks.
Okay, so firmly at number 9?
I think number 9 is a good spot.
Okay.
I think I would leave it there too.
Okay, fair enough. That's a pretty clean entry. Let's move on. Okay, so you guys remember what I said about this being kind of an old list that we had to take off the shelf and like fix a bit? Okay, I think for the most of our discussion, we're going to be deciding which game we would take off to replace with Rainbow Six Siege. Because, spoiler alert, I know everyone can see the ranking there on the side of the screen, but Siege is not on the list. This would probably be the game that I would swap for that. But let's pretend like this is a game that deserves to be at number 8. Why would it be there? Because at some point we definitely thought so.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most simple. It's an easy game to understand.
Okay.
Easy mechanic. You jump in, you know what you have to do kind of right away. But it's so hard to master. Because you play with so many things that you don't have in other games, which is like kind of hair surfing or hair like.
Yeah, it's fast. It's really fast.
It's really fast, and when you play versus a good player, sometimes you don't even know like what is going on, like what happened. I died like it was so fast.
I tried to play this game for a while, and okay, you were talking about the air surfing. I think they call it skiing in the game.
Yeah, okay, I
where
forgot.
there's this mechanic for those of you who haven't played it, where basically if you're coming down a hill off of your jetpack or something, you can hit the ski button and you just kind of like lose friction and you're literally just skiing. And that's really cool, but that's like a skill that you won't have picked up anywhere.
No, it's pretty unique to that.
And there's like no hit scan weapons in this game. None of the weapons are hit scan. It's always like projectile based.
Yeah.
And it's like a grenade launcher is sort of the main weapon that the combat is all based
Yeah, it's the disc launcher.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I found so frustrating about the game is I was always fighting guys who were so far away.
Yeah.
Like I'm fighting dudes, like it happens in PUBG too, but like your enemy is so far away and you're firing at him and you're trying to like arc your shot.
Yeah.
Tough game.
Well, because there's no front line either, like in a game like Overwatch or Counter-Strike, where you're like, they're over there and we're over here.
They're clearly around this
Everything
corner.
is everywhere, all over the place, and the team play comes from being able to keep track of your team and you and figure out how you're all going to sort of swarm around and coordinate. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a little bit overwhelming, although it's so simple.
Well, I mean, it's a throwback to like an old, I mean, the original Tribes. I don't know when it came out. We can probably put that in a graphic on screen right now. Cool. But it's like, this is a product of the old arena shooters. This is like arena shooters moving towards more team-based stuff. So like the original Tribes was kind of a weird hybrid game. Before we move on, I gotta address the elephant in the room. It's kind of hard to learn this game because there aren't a lot of people still playing it.
Yeah, there's that
Hi-Rez kind of cut the cord once Smite started to bring in the good money.
They were going to go back to it, but I don't know if they ever did.
I think they just kept it alive. I think it's on like life support, but
I think
that's
there's
about
something
it.
to do with it. If I'm them though, like I don't want to kill the license. It's already known. It's just
Yeah, but I
the
can't
mechanics need to be a little adapted.
I just can't blame them for, you know, taking, like not that many people were playing this, and a lot of people were playing Smite, so I can't really blame them for moving on to more profitable ventures.
No, but I still don't think they should drop it completely.
There you have it. Okay, let's move on to number 7. Okay, so I think we're gonna begin with our first user comment of the day because it proves our point. I think this can be the whole entry right now. Demon Grenade 274 says, there's an entire encyclopedia in Arma 3 called Field Manual that explains all the basics to play Arma 3. There's literally no need to look at any out-of-game guides for anything in vanilla Arma. The controls aren't even that complicated. Anyway, he goes on, but
if you need
an encyclopedia to play the game, like, I rest my case.
Yeah,
I know nobody likes long tutorials, but I think there's a middle ground between overly long tutorials and an encyclopedia in the
like
game.
slamming a guy down in front of you, being like, read all of this, and then you'll understand. All of the different sitting positions and firing positions, and oh my God.
I know there's prone and crouch like in most other shooters, but there's different firing positions in Arma 3 too, right?
And they all matter for depending on the situation you're in, and you can literally sit down. There's all like everything in between because it's a
I played that game. I didn't even know that.
Right?
Because it's a simulator, but man, do they really do a good job at trying to make you feel like you're there and do everything that you could do in real life.
Because I've bounced off the game real hard. I tried, and it's just like, much like a lot of my PUBG experience, it's just like,
especially when you get into the multiplayer.
You've played it a bunch?
Yeah, well, I played more Arma 2 than Arma 3.
Okay, fair enough.
It's kind of what I felt like in that game as well. I remember just to install Arma 2 is kind of complicated. Like, you just install it, honestly. So, it's challenging.
But do you think Arma 3 is still secure on the list? If we were to just make our own list today, would this still stay here, or would you swap it out for something that you think is a little more difficult?
I would put it higher on the list. I would keep it here, and I would put it like top 3.
Interesting.
Top 3? I don't know about that.
Okay.
Maybe not top 3.
When you get into the competitive multiplayer, it's savage, and the community demands that you know what you're doing.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's back.
Yeah, and I think that's coming up. With some of our other entries, I think that the community is the biggest barrier for entry for new players. I think that's going to come up a little bit more as we move on. So let's get there. Let's move on. Okay, so I can actually preface this with another user comment. Resistance, I don't know how he secured that username, but Resistance says, Smash Bros, I was like 12 when I knew how to play. Granted, these are games that, they're very accessible. They're made for young audiences and older audiences alike. What I will say, though, is we picked Melee, or Melee if you really want to say that.
Melee.
We picked Melee because if you find yourself in 2018 with a copy of Melee and a GameCube to play it on, the person that owns that game has probably been playing for 17 freaking years. Or how long? Yeah, 17 years. So if you're getting into this game now, it's much harder than trying to get into it before. If you're just playing with your sister in the basement like you did in 2001, no problem. But if you were to try to get into like the current multiplayer scene for this game, that's what we're talking about.
But that to me makes it feel like a bit different from the other games
Yeah,
on the
that's what I was
list.
to say. It seems like the list is, for each game, there's a different criteria as to why they were put at that level, and they're not comparing the same criteria together. So for this specific game, I mean, it is an easier game. Like, I know the subtleties in the top level is like impossible to reach in 2018.
But you can still jump in and play.
But you can still jump in and play and get good, probably like within reasonable amount of time. And yeah, I think for that, maybe it's a little too high on the list.
Okay, so we've taken the heat off of World of War or Tribes Ascend. Now, is this going to be the ugly stepchild who no one likes on the list?
For me, if it was between this and Tribes Ascend, I mean, there's stuff I would put on over both of those games. But if I had to choose between leaving one or the other, I'd leave Tribes on over this.
Okay, so to our users, let us know in the comments if you think this actually makes sense or if we were just having a really bad day. But like, I'm sure some of you out there would agree that it's one of the hardest multiplayer games out there. Maybe not number 6 of all time, but let us know because, you know, we're not necessarily experts. These are just our opinions. But I think our next entry is going to be a little more agreeable. I've just got a hunch. So next entry, Starcraft II, one of the OG, well, excuse me, Starcraft is one of the OG esports.
For me, it's top 3 for sure.
Even,
Really?
would it be higher than your game of choice?
Yes.
Really?
I think
higher
so.
than Counter-Strike?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think this is one of the hardest games to just understand, master. There's 3 different races. They all do different things. I don't know.
What's
Clicks
surprising?
per second.
Clicks per second matters. Like, it's not only your brain, it's not just skills, like everything. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to monitor the other team. You have to like react to what they're building. That's the thing. Okay, so when this game came out, Andrew and I and a couple of our other buddies, we tried to play this competitive, not competitively, but we tried to play it multiplayer. Well, we were on the competitive ladder.
Yeah.
But the thing that really, surprised me was that this is a game about speed.
Yeah.
And you know, you think real-time strategy, it's a lot about like, you know, you're planning and your strategy. Excuse me, I had the hiccups or something. But it's really about how fast you're microing your units. And that I always thought it was just like, you know, like drag select, send them this way, and they're gonna do the fighting. But really, the best players, they're like micromanaging the heck out of their dudes. And that's
insane stuff with like dropships and siege tanks, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
like,
to keep units healed and shielded. And
And even without the casters, nobody would have
the
an idea
casters just
what's
confuse
going
me.
on.
They
But
just confuse
every-
me.
I do. For me, if they weren't in there, I have no idea of the skill level required to make this happen.
Okay, so
But because they explain to me and they break down everything, I'm just like, oh, damn, that is really impressive. You know, they create the hype, or else I'd be just like, what is going on? Who's losing?
You got to go by their enthusiasm levels. You're like, oh, I guess that was impressive because this guy's freaking out now.
So you were telling me if you just watch a StarCraft game with no caster, you would understand who's ahead or not.
I understand whose units are blowing up.
That's it, though.
Like, that's pretty much
but
it.
you don't know, maybe they're blowing up, but he's still ahead because he's doing some kind of weird thing that, like, so
you know, you were talking earlier about like how PUBG is an easy game to watch because it's like you just got to be the last person alive. You got to stay alive and not get shot until the end. That's the objective. And you know, StarCraft, the objective, like blow up the other base, cool. But the sort of your goals in between that are kind of obtuse, and it's not exactly easy to just watch it and see it.
Super obscure, and they're, well, not probably for pros, but like for
obviously.
for the other people, like it's super obscure. It's super. You could make up a strategy that is like successful, and even the casters might be like, we don't like, oh, what is going on? This is very interesting. We've never seen this before.
Because they don't necessarily know what's happening before it happens.
Yeah. So it's very unique.
Like I said, I think we're pretty confident that StarCraft should be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but I think 5 is a good spot. You're saying you would put it higher?
Well, we'll see.
I think it should be top 3.
We'll see what we get to for the next 4 entries. Maybe they're even more secure. Only one way to find out, viewers. Stick around. Okay. Entry number 4, the pièce de résistance, because This is your area of expertise. Although I will say that our producer picked.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at it. I'm like, hey, that's not the latest one.
No, this is Source.
Yeah.
And you never played Source,
I never played Source. Can I smash your TV?
No.
We kind of need it, but
but
you can
smash the same though.
But you can smash us in the debate.
Not. It's like saying all the Smash Bros are the same.
Okay, here's the thing.
Or the Street Fighters.
I've played so much Counter-Strike over the years, but Dan can attest to this. I just can't, and I'm not like, it's not like I'm bad at shooters, but man, do I ever get my ass kicked when we play ranked CS.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how,
like regular
how much I
matchmaking?
get smashed.
Like CS:GO matchmaking?
Yeah, but like the ranked matchmaking, so the competitive one. Yeah, we're not good. Nobody's paying us to play Counter-Strike, let's just say. But from the view of a professional, why would you say that this game is tough to learn?
Because I think there's so much teamwork and like the mechanics are super simple.
Yeah.
But without teamwork, it pretty much you can't carry your team all the time. You have to build teamworks, and because people are so good at just shooting people in the face, the strategy and the teamwork and the practice comes into play. So to reach like the very high level, even like amazingly skilled player, they reach a wall where if they don't start to like understand teamwork and communication and and even still today, like there's no dominant team in Counter-Strike in 2018. It's still like there's about 20 to 30 teams that can beat each other at all times, depending on the day and depending when they can wake up or whatever. Because it's a momentum build game, and it's pretty unique in the shooter because it's not just.
I'd say Counter-Strike is unique
shooting,
because it stopped evolving, if that makes any sense.
For me, it's like a sport. It's like football, hockey. It's like the rules are clear. The rules are kind of quote unquote perfect,
right.
And it's all the meta game around it, the strategy,
and just the players
the players, the newcomers that change how you play the game. So the game never changed since like '99, almost never changed. They added like Molotovs and a couple of guns.
They
and
moved
whatnot.
some of the boxes around in Dust 2.
Yeah, and they changed like a couple of simple mechanics, movements, whatever, shooting.
But wait, I'm going to get sidetracked here. But you said you never picked up Source, though.
Yes.
And how come?
Because
in the simplest terms.
In the purest Counter-Strike way, Source was like a, how can you say that? Like a letdown of a game. It's like, it's a little bit how some version of Street Fighter kind of skipped and some version of like Smasher kind of skipped because the community doesn't turn onto it. But the thing is that Source stayed for so long that there's newcomers that came to Counter-Strike. They started with Source. And then Source had his own scene, and then 1.6 as an own scene as well. And then when CS:GO came out, they merged both scenes. I think it was a good enough game for both communities to say, okay, we'll play it because there's some mechanics that are more closer to 1.6, some mechanics were closer to Source, and there's money. And that's when esports bloomed. So like people were super hype about CS:GO, and money came in and swooped the rest.
This one, easy game to follow though. You're just these guys shot those guys in the face. That's why they won.
Yeah, it's super simple to understand. It might go a little fast.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's why it's hard. You can't, like one little mistake of 1 second could make you lose a whole match. And I think that's why it's so hard, because honestly, everything you do matters.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see if we think number 4 is a good spot for Counter-Strike after we talk about our next entry. Because we were talking before. All right. Number 3, Street Fighter, which is coincidentally our most contentious entry, maybe the one that we're a little bit divided about.
The franchise, right? Like
this is the whole franchise. Yeah.
Franchise. I don't understand why this is 3.
Yeah, me neither. Especially, I know it's the whole franchise, but if you think Street Fighter V, a lot of the top players, well, not a lot, but a couple top players right now are newcomers.
Right. Okay.
So,
which kind of undermines the whole idea.
To Street Fighter in general, like they're new to the franchise.
And like a lot of the top players have only started playing Street Fighter recently, like in the last 3, 4, 5 years. And compared to all the other games on the list, like it's not really the case for all the others. Or
even Smash Brothers?
Well, the Melee one, it wasn't.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it is 17 years old. So like.
That's why I'm saying all the games on here depends which type of of way we decided to rank it. Like
Yeah.
this one is the franchise, but Smash Bros was just a melee, you know. Because if we take the whole Smash franchise, Smash 4 is also like it's just top new players that are there, you know.
Well,
So,
we have a system.
and we can ask this
We
question.
have a system.
We have a system, but we're not going to tell you what it is.
We can ask the comments actually what everyone thinks is the most important Street Fighter in the competitive scene. I mean, I suppose it depends on your definition of important, because I think a lot of people would say the one that has the most tournaments and the most money behind those tournaments is probably the most important.
For myself, I like Street Fighter. I follow the scene a lot. I would say Street Fighter 4.
Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
Okay. It hasn't fully moved on to 5 yet.
No, everybody moved on.
Okay.
But my brain still considers Street Fighter 4 like the era of like.
Okay, fair enough.
Of like, yeah, that was the good years.
So Sunny Disposition, which I think is an ironic name, said, "Why the hell is Street Fighter 2 above Starcraft or Counter-Strike?" Would you guys put Street Fighter? Is it Street Fighter? Excuse me, I said Street Fighter 2 just because
Street Fighter 2?
I just say that by
Which
default.
one?
I'm just like, for years when I was a kid, I would say NBA Jam every time I referred to the Basketball Association. I would just say add Jam at the end. Yeah. Would you guys say this isn't like that Street Fighter should get like kind of bumped down and back to 5?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
I don't think it's harder than StarCraft at all.
No, I think yeah, I feel that like if you took two groups of pros, some pro Street Fighter players and some pro StarCraft players, and made them switch places. I mean, granted, the guys who play. Actually, you know what? Never mind. But I think the StarCraft players would probably have a better time playing Street Fighter than the Street Fighter guys playing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And at least in Street Fighter, it's like everything is, you know, like let's say you've never played the game. You sit down with someone that knows how to play. They can sum up like all the subtleties of the gameplay within a couple of hours without even touching the game. You can understand like the frame mechanics, like all characters, what they do, like what's their recovery time, all that kind of stuff. Well, you can't do the same with StarCraft. It's like
no. Like you got it. There's a lot of studying just to know all the different units and the different conditions you use. Okay, so I'm not saying that this rank is bad, but it's not the best.
No.
Anyway, but you can let us know in the comments. Maybe Street Fighter is way harder to learn than Counter-Strike or StarCraft II. So please let us know. We stimulate that user engagement, please. All right, so now later in the category of stuff that is pretty secure on the list that we're not in disagreement over, we got Dota 2, right? We're pretty solid that the fact that Dota is tough to learn.
Well, if you've played one MOBA, I mean, this is going to sound, people are going to be so mad at me for saying this, but it's true, because I play a lot of them. If you played one MOBA, you've sort of played them all, in the sense that, like, if you've never played a MOBA before, you're lost, right? But whether you're going to Dota 2 or Heroes of the Storm or League of Legends or Smite, which are the 4 that I play, once you've mastered one, you can pick up the other ones really fast.
Yeah, but it's like saying that once you played a racing game, you played them all. It's
No,
just a genre.
but
It's a genre. That's not why Dota is hard, I think.
Okay, so
no, but Dota I find is the hardest to learn out of the MOBA. So like number 2 is sort of
So
MOBAs
for
in
you,
general,
just
and then
learning
Dota.
a MOBA is like by itself some kind of difficulty for people
Yes,
to pick up.
absolutely.
Okay.
But I think what you're saying, Andrew, is that there's a reason that we didn't just put all MOBAs here at this spot. We deliberately picked Dota 2. And as our resident MOBA expert, whether you want to be or not, I'm sure you pushed for that during the meeting. Now, maybe you can bring us back to why you think this is the hardest MOBA to learn?
I mean, compared to, like, let's just pick, like, League of Legends, because I find Smite and Here's the Storm are the easiest of those to learn. But comparing Dota to League of Legends, the champions, the characters that you pick, are a lot more complex, with the exception of Invoker from Dota. Most League of Legends champions are harder to sort of pick up and learn, and it's a lot less forgiving than Dota is. But Dota, the game plays faster, and the rules are a lot more loose. So if you're playing League, you know, you're sticking really tightly to the lane compositions and the timer, and you're doing things at like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Whereas Dota, that gets mixed up way faster depending on the makeup of the teams. So the game sort of have a very different, unpredictable flow to them. And that makes Dota 2 harder to pick up if you're a MOBA fan or just have never played MOBAs before in general. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that made a bit of sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Dota is I've played so much of Dota All-Star, like old school, and I still have difficulties watching Dota 2 because of how, like for me, the graphics and everything is kind of like unclear and uncertain, and like it just looks like a...
Andrew used to go on a lot about this, about how like League of Legends, the art style, while maybe not everyone's cup of tea, you look at that and it's much easier to see at a glance what's happening.
You know the lanes, you see what's up, but in Dota, like some characters would come out of nowhere and I'd be like, it could be there? Like, I don't know, like it's just, for me, it's not clear.
Middle lane missing. Middle lane missing.
But there is no, you don't even bother with that.
Yeah.
You don't play that.
No, they're like across the map.
Sorry, I played Smite.
No, because Dota, Dota 2 stuck very closely to the original Dota, whereas League of Legends sort of modernized the formula, and because they stuck so close, there's a lot more rules. You can deselect your character in Dota and select other stuff, whereas in League, you're locked onto your character. Dota, you have the courier. And just like learning the courier for somebody who's never played MOBAs before is a mess because you're completely panicking.
You're like, why do I need to buy stuff in the first place, let alone go back to get it?
You can't base in Dota and League or every other MOBA except Dota. You just hit B and your character teleports back to their base.
Right.
But you can't, because you've played Smite with me.
Right.
But you can't do that in Dota. You've got to buy an item that lets you teleport around, and the items are so much more complex. Like so many of the items have active abilities.
I think
and
you guys,
items that change your ultimate. There's a lot to take in.
I think you guys are supporting the ranking just based on how complex that description was.
I could see an argument between this and StarCraft, like who's second, who's third.
Fair enough.
But they're definitely top 3.
I would say that like the thing about MOBAs, which makes them so infinitely complex, is that like there's just so many variations of the characters. Whereas, in StarCraft, you can learn the Zerg, the Protoss, and the Terran, and like, there are changes to the meta, expansions blow the whole thing up every so often, but I feel like those are relatively secure, whereas like I feel like the meta in a regular MOBA gets turned on its head every month.
Well, more so League than Dota, but
it's because as soon as you change one character's,
it's like a domino effect.
Stats, you can affect every other characters. Yeah. So, it's very, very hard for game developers. Okay,
changing the subject right now. Who is pumped to get to our #1 entry? You guys? Are you guys pumped?
Well, it's like, who wants to do like a hard test tomorrow? Like, it's like a hard game to learn. I don't know. I don't know.
I think we'll get there.
Okay.
Let's go.
By the way, just one last comment before we move on from Sheikh Mansour says, League is harder than Dota. Let us know if you agree with him or disagree or think Andrew's just full of it. Okay, let's move right on. Okay, well, here we are at the #1 entry, and I am delighted because we have a comment that agrees with our ranking. At #1, we have EVE Online, and Electro V-Dub says, agreed. EVE Online took me about 2 years to learn properly, but it's the best game I've ever played. So much positivity. We never see that in the comments.
I love how honest he is too about like he loves the game and he still agrees
that it's insanely hard.
Insanely hard, but not in a pretentious way either. I like this guy.
And I think this sort of gets at like why these games become so popular. I think it's like it's a tired analogy these days, but it's like the Dark Souls thing. Because it's harder to get into, it's much more rewarding to play. If that makes any sense.
I don't know. For me, that doesn't win me over.
That doesn't win you over at all?
At all. I stopped at Dark Souls like in the tutorial.
Well, that's fair. I mean, barely has a tutorial.
I'm not spending.
Sorry, but I mean,
it doesn't really have a tutorial. It's like the loading entry. I don't know. I just
don't get bogged down on my example. I'm just saying that it's rewarding because it's hard.
I think what's rewarding is understanding all of the subtleties to these games, and like because their mechanics are so well done. That you actually feel like you are having an impact when you change something, and there's always something to learn, and
Specifically EVE Online though, why would you guys say, or not say, who knows, that this is the hardest multiplayer game to learn?
So many reasons, and not just like, how difficult it is to control your ship and learn what all the different abilities do. More than any other MMO, players have taken over the game and made it their game, and you're dealing with other players all the time.
Yeah, every time I see a story about this game, it's like this whole pirate band did this thing, or there was an election in the game, or like an insurrection against, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, does the game really accommodate for that, or is that all just done by the players?
It's more the players. They rule it. You know, a lot of the times the developer, they don't want to be too hands-on. They actually want, you know, stuff like that to happen. They want to let it in the hands of the players. And that's the thing, you know, in that game you can invest I don't know how many hours for, I don't know how many years.
2 years according to this guy.
Yeah, let's say like you spend 2 years building something and within a day it could be all destroyed and you lose everything and it's gone. So it's not like a MOBA where every 45 minutes you restart, or a little PUBG game where 5 minutes start over, character is brand new.
It's permanent.
It's pretty much you could spend your whole life and maybe even like life savings, because is there like premium currency?
People spend people spend a lot of money.
Yeah, and
I think this is kind of due to the fact that this is one of the last surviving old school MMOs. It's like it weathered the storm against Warcraft. Because like basically MMOs, for those of you who don't know, used to be really obtuse, like really tough to play, and then WoW came along and it was like, hey, how about we just make it easy and fun? And like, and it killed basically everything else except EVE Online. And maybe like one legacy server of EverQuest that people are still playing on. But this is a throwback to like how it used to be, where like MMOs specifically were just obtuse and full of menus and didn't give a shit if you kept playing or not. And I think that's, you know, and that's part of the appeal of the game, I'm thinking.
Yeah, but that speaks for like the longevity of this game, although it's not accessible, although it's really not user-friendly, and although it's really old, there's still a lot of people playing the game, and it's still extremely popular, and some people say it's the best game of their life. So
like Electro V-Dub.
It might be the hardest, by far, game to learn. It's also a great game.
There you go. Shining endorsement from Stephanie Harvey. Thanks, CCP.
There's nothing else to say.
I'm expecting our endorsement check to come in the mail now. Guys, before we go, did you have any thing that you think we didn't touch upon that you think should be on the list? Maybe a game that just came to you now? Have we been talking?
If you've ever tried to play Total War competitively, like those, you're gonna get annihilated by other players because they know things about the game that you don't know, and that's a really challenging game to get into.
I think Battle Right too is
Battle
like,
Right.
Yeah, it's like a new battle arena that's not a MOBA. And,
Okay.
I mean, if you put Street Fighter in there, you definitely put Battle Right. You know, it's like some kind of like hero-based arena, like contact play. I don't know. It's interesting. I like it.
So when you bring up heroes, how come we didn't include Overwatch? Just kidding.
Yeah,
Overwatch.
I was thinking about that too earlier. I don't know. It's easy to get in.
Overwatch,
you don't need to understand anything to play the game.
A lot of the things that I find are difficult about getting into other multiplayer games, Blizzard is very smart. They did the same thing with World of Warcraft, but like they're very conscious of the fact that people bounce off of hard multiplayer games, so they give you a lot of stuff to like make it feel like you've contributed and learned. Anyway, you know what? That's another top 10 though. Easiest multiplayer games to learn. Stephanie, do you have any projects that you're working on lately? Can you tell people how to? You have a Twitch channel as well?
Yeah, I try to stream every day. The keyword is try. It's not always easy.
Okay.
Because I do a lot. I travel a lot.
Right.
I've just been announced a partnership with HBO Man and as well as DreamHack Canada, DreamHack Montreal. So I'm going to be all across Canada throughout the next months doing a tour for both. Which are each Comic-Con, each event, like each gaming event leading to DreamHack Montreal at the end of the summer in 2018. So that's going to be great stuff. So follow me on Miss Harvey at everything. I do a lot of Instagram, Insta stories I love. I also post on YouTube, but I'm not famous like you guys on YouTube. I'm like a little
Oh, I mean, fame comes with its downsides, let me tell you. So everyone should have seen a little graphic for Stephanie's information
Twitter,
on
Facebook,
screen.
Everything. I have everything.
And it'll be in the description as well. Thank you for joining us. Let us know how you feel about our discussion. We're thick-skinned, we can take it, as much as we may have led you to believe otherwise. Thank you for watching Deconstructed, everybody, and thank you so much to Stephanie for joining us.
Thank you.
And Andrew, whatever. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching MojoPlays. Be sure to subscribe and click on the link in the description below to check out our suggestion page and vote on what content you'd like to see us cover next.